show me the financials. Let me see your profit and loss. Like that's your scoreboard for your business, right? And first of all, I've never had a builder come to me where the profit and loss is set up correctly. Your business will never outgrow your leadership. So there's a real need to grow your mindset and your self-image, self-belief around money, finance, marketing, leadership, as well as your business systems and processes. Building an an operations manual. The solution is chase the margin, then the revenue. Even if it takes you 12, 18 months to really understand where's the margin, and this relates back to sales and marketing. It's about becoming a specialist, being a cardiologist, not a GP. What they're paying for is not the time that you spend doing the quote, which is what most guys think. And that's true, yes. Why would you do it for free? This is the only industry in the world where someone post World War II decided, let's do free quotes. And now we're still doing it 2026, right? There's no, go to a lawyer, accountant, anyone, dentist, well, they're going to do free work. Are you out of your mind, right?
Hey, friends, welcome back to the Your Project Shepherd podcast. I'm your host, Curtis Lawson, and I'm in Texas, Houston, Texas, USA. And here in Houston, Texas, USA, builders drive big trucks. So if you're a builder and you drive a truck, or even if you don't and you wish you drove a truck, imagine that you're driving your big old 3/4 ton truck down the highway. The truck looks fantastic. It's got a shiny paint job. It's got all the bells and whistles, and everybody's jealous when they see your truck. But here's the thing they can't see. That big old truck with the V8 engine, only 2 of the 8 cylinders are actually firing. So it takes you forever to get to where you need to go. Your air conditioning and your heat don't work, so it's uncomfortable to drive. The headlights are dim, so you keep bumping into things at night. And the tires are bald, so you're not getting traction. But the truck looks so good, and it looks so good that the outside world thinks that you've got it made when they see your truck. But behind the wheel, it's just a hunk of junk, and it's never really going to get you to where you need to go. So that's a dumb story, right? Like, we'd never drive a truck like that, would we? But there's so many contractors out there who are running their business the exact same way this person is owning this vehicle that I just mentioned, right? A very high percentage of contractors have companies that look good from a distance. They look good on the website. They have beautiful photos on the website. They have cool company trucks. They got shirts with their logos on them, but they're not making any money. Their customers aren't happy. Their trade partners wonder if they're getting paid next week. And all the employees hate going to work every day and wonder if their paycheck's going to show up. So obviously today's topic is for the builders out there. And this is something that I talk about all the time. And you're probably going to tell me, Curtis, you sound like a broken record. I'm tired of hearing this. But this is that important. Day in and day out, I talk to and I deal with builders who do not have their act together regarding financials and business systems. And so these people always seem to work and work and work, but they never seem to make any money, and they're always burnt out. So having defined and refined processes and systems in your company is what takes your company to that next level. And if you want to grow, it's not going to happen, at least not successfully, without processes. And so, to talk about this today with us, all the way from down under, is construction business coach Kurt Hegetschweiler. Welcome, Kurt.
Thanks for having me, Curtis. Really appreciate being here.
So, do builders in Australia drive trucks too? Probably not the giant trucks we have here.
They do. They call them utes, actually. So you're right. They're not as big as yours. And we do work with builders in the US as well. But I'll tell you what's aspirational is a Ford Raptor, I think an F-150 and some Rams as well. You see some Rams out here, but they a little more on the pricey end.
So tell us about your company and what you do down there and around the
Yeah,
world.
look, in a nutshell, I'm a specialist business coach who works with builders, custom home builders, renovators, remodelers, small to medium-sized builders. And I suppose my specialty is in peak performance and optimization. It's something I've learned over the past 21 years or so of coaching, started back in 2004, is that your business will never outgrow your leadership. So there's a real need to grow your mindset and your self-image, self-belief around money, finance, marketing, leadership, as well as your business systems and processes. Building an an operations manual with best practice process that's optimized for efficiency, and then the three big metrics: profit, cash flow, and workflow. So I've written a couple of books. My latest book, Million Dollar Builder 2.0. It sounds very clickbaity. I've got a client, funnily enough, just quick story. Young guy, when he came to me, he said, "Hey, love, nice clickbait, mate." And I was like, "Oh, it's not clickbait." Like we had, 10 years in, with coaching, we had to build $1 million. This is net profit, $1 million before tax. And then it happened again and then again. And now the sweet spot is around 6 million turnover. So still small business, not volume by any means. 25% gross margin. You'd understand gross margin as opposed to net. The numbers that we talk about: 25, 10, 15, 25 gross margin. If you can hold that, price that, hold it on delivery, and your overheads are 10% of turnover, you can net 15. So on 6 million, 25 is 1.5 mil. And if you can live on, half a mil overheads, you're netting $1 million. Then you got a tax problem in the Western world, as you'd know. So we funnel some of that into building a property portfolio, doing some small fixer-upper developments, and that's the best model I've seen for a building company, and that's how you can build generational wealth.
Absolutely. So in my intro, did I hit the nail on the head?
Yes, you, you absolutely did. While you're talking, I was thinking about how, I've had that many builders come to me where their website, for example, looks amazing. They've got big Instagram following, they've got amazing photos, drone footage, everything's 5 star. And day one conversation with me, and we're going to get into it today, is, show me the financials. Let me see your profit and loss. Like that's your scoreboard for your business, right? And first of all, I've never had a builder come to me where the profit and loss is set up correctly. So the numbers are always a mess. There's no real accurate, you know, cost coding. The cost of sales aren't separate from the overhead sometimes, which is quite alarming. But yeah, that's that's obviously a crucial day one thing, and it may look great from the outside, like I said, 5 star website, but when we look at the profitability and the money they're making, it's shocking. I mean, I had a recent example. They were $800,000 in the hole, but if you looked at them from the outside, you would have thought they were wildly successful. So that's very common, and not only in this industry. There's a lot of businesses where once you pull back the curtain, you're like, wow, I wouldn't want to be them. Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think it is that so many construction business owners struggle with this? It seems simple, right? It's just math. You have to have more at the end of the day than you started with. You have to make money on every project. You have to control your overhead. You have to know your numbers to know that X minus X equals X. But so it's all things that we learned in grade school. So why is it so hard for people to actually put into practice?
It's not, you're right. It seems simple, right? And I've, scratched my head for decades. Like, why is it so difficult to accurately calculate money in, money out? All right, you invoice your clients, money comes in, you've got expenses. Those expenses, there's those that relate to the job, that's cost of sales, and then there's overheads, right? Expenses you can't allocate to a job, like your marketing or office rent, that sort of thing. Why is it so difficult to get that accurate? Right? It is. I can tell you now it is. So why, to answer your question, so that would be the reason. It is not easy. Most bookkeepers and accountants don't understand how to get the numbers right in this industry, because those profit and losses that I'm seeing on day one, they were, set up by a bookkeeper, or, and there's the difference between an accountant and a bookkeeper. Accountant's the guy that does tax, understands tax law, and should help you, reduce your tax, but keep serviceability there. We can still buy some land and property. And the bookkeeper should be the money in, money out guy and help you with, individual job reports, your profit and loss. But getting if we go to best practice for a second, begin with the end in mind. Like, what's the ideal financial control setup? Well, there's three components. There's your cost code, so you're pricing your jobs, right? When you're quoting. Those cost codes ideally should, and I know you guys have a custom home building business, so you'd be able to relate to this well. Those cost codes should be uploaded into some sort of job scheduling tool, whether obviously Builder Trend's a big one. There's these other ones like Builder and Wonder Builder. It doesn't matter what you use, but they should upload in, and then you should be able to issue purchase orders with those cost codes. And then those should both align with your chart of accounts, which is your bookkeeping, your profit and loss. Um, I'm yet to see anyone come to me. I've had three or four guys come to me already in the seven-figure club. So they're already netting $1 million, but their financials were a mess. So, it's about finding a specialist. So how does a builder fix this, right? They've got to one, decide. It's a decision. The hallmark of leadership is decision making. Decide I'm going to work on my business. I'm going to get my head around this because if you do, it is liberating to go from not understanding the numbers, everything being hazy, to being crystal clear, understanding how to price your jobs, what your margins should be, doing that at the front end, delivering, holding the profits, seeing it come out the back end. If you can do that, your net profit kicks at a certain volume. Okay, that's how we get results for our guys. But yeah, but you need a specialist bookkeeper who understands the numbers for a builder because it's different if they're doing restaurants, cafes, retail stores. It's different. It's very different. So ideally, a specialist bookkeeper, an accountant, and the builder deciding I'm going to get my head around this, no matter how long it takes.
I think one of the things that I see is number one, at least here in the U.S., a lot of builders, a lot of custom builders and remodelers, they start off as a one-man operation, and oftentimes they've come out of the trades. So they've been a carpenter or a framer or whatever, or they've been a project manager for another company, and so now they're a business owner. And so they start small, one person. You're trying to do it on a shoestring budget, and it's great that we have accounting software at our fingertips now, right? Like QuickBooks and Sage and all these accounting softwares are out there, which are really powerful. I think maybe the negative side of that is it's so easy to kind of get started in that you have people that don't really understand numbers kind of setting up their own accounting systems early without any advice, right? So they're starting from zero. They're like, oh, well, I'll just set up a couple basic things and just let it go, right? And to be honest with you, 21 years ago, that's what I did. And so people's accounting systems often don't evolve with them as they grow. The business starts to get bigger. It needs to be more sophisticated, but these accounting systems are still staying very basic and not set up properly.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, like it's interesting. I have guys come to me, and they want to know, like, and sorry, just going back to the answering your question before about what do they do, or why is their number such a mess? So yeah, it's making a decision to learn. It's getting a specialist bookkeeper, accountant to help with the setup, and a business coach. Getting there's lots of really good coaches out there. Someone who understands the numbers, who can teach you. Trying to figure it out for yourself is going to be a long, painful process. But I think so. Yeah, some of the guys that come to us, they're starting out and oh, should I get a coach now when I'm starting out? And I'm absolutely yes. It's like building on a clean, flat block. If you're going to put best practice process in place, you ideally want to do it from the get-go. And we have guys come to us at that stage, and I'm like, this is beautiful because we can teach you how to price. You can understand the margins, the difference between markup and margin, and then how to set up your sales process. Everything that happens pre-construction, which we were talking about off air just a minute ago, and you can do it properly and well. Versus, some of the older guys that come to us, they've got so many bad habits and routines and systems, and it's a mess because of what you just described, where they started out trying to set it up themselves, that we've got to uproot all that crap and then try. It's almost like doing a knockdown rebuild, right? For these older guys, which can then messes with headspace. So, and then the other thing that throws a spanner in the works is in this day and age, in the attention economy, there's so many options. Like, yeah, there's all the latest software and this and the app and most guys don't know where to turn. So what is best practice and what is the best solution for me now based on the type of work I do, based on my location and where I want to go. And then most people don't even have clarity around that. So it just gets very messy very quickly. Yeah.
Well, it's like trying to learn a new sport. If you were trying to learn football or tennis or any sport, and you just decided I'm gonna go out there and start playing this sport. Okay, well, you might know the kind of the basic rules because you've watched it on TV, but unless you hire a coach or a trainer to work with you to really teach you the sport, you're
Mm.
probably never going to get anywhere with it.
Exactly, yeah. And that's about, it's all about standards at the end of the day. Like, what standard are you setting? And often, come across guys and people get jaded, right? Like, life punches you in the face and, they have a toxic client and they lose the money. And then there's, constant worry about workflow. And I've got work booked in now, but what happens, 12 months from now when I finish that and guys are on the proverbial hamster wheel, just getting work, doing work, getting, there's no process, is, I'm working hard, where's the money, all of that. And then the reality is they're just plodding along. And I always say to them, like, if you had one of your kids come to you, like if you got kids, Curtis?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. If your kids and anyone listening that doesn't have kids, think of it, yeah, nephew or niece comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to become a yeah, it could be like doctor or accountant or lawyer, or I want to start a business. What advice would you have for me, as a parent or a guardian?" Now you'd say to them, "Hey, like, yeah, do your absolute best. Just, shoot for the stars. Maybe you'll hit the moon. Most of us will give that sort of advice. Like, you've got so much potential in you. Just really like, I mean, that's you wouldn't say to them, just plod along, just be average, just pay the bills. Like, and the reality is, and this is the real sort of punchline here, is that, those of you that do have kids, like your kids won't listen to a word you say,
That's right.
but they will watch everything you do, right? So, what are you doing to set the example? You know, to really, the upper end of human potential is untested. So, where are you playing? What are you striving for? What example are you setting? So, and the other thing with that is I'm not trying to make people feel bad, because it's important to just let anyone listening who is feeling bad, who's in financial strife, it's not your fault. Like, there's not a lot of good information out there. There hasn't been. There is now, and that's the good news. The good news is, if you've been sort of lost at sea for a while, like, there has never been a better time for the sharing of quality information and access to good coaches and mentors and, people that can really help you get up to speed quickly and well. But it all starts with making that decision. Because I'm not here to say it's easy. You'll know it's not easy, but man, if you just prepared to do the work, you can live an extraordinary life. And again, set an example for your kids and enjoy good lifestyle freedom and choice.
Yeah, the amount of resources that are out there today are just exponentially higher than they were 20 years ago when I started. Of course, the internet was in its infancy 25 years ago when I started. But the amount of resources that's out there between books, podcasts, video series, coaching. I mean, there's so much out there that's available to people today that I wish I had access to when I first started.
Yeah, man. I think about the 80s and 90s when, the guys were using landlines, there were no mobile phones, everything was paper-based. There was not a lot of, no one knew what a coach was. There weren't, really any business coaches, and guys were able to make a success of it. So, yeah, there's no excuses really in today's day and age. You just need to find the right mentor, know what you want, make a decision, and then go after it. But the world has changed. I think, sadly, society is sort of conditioning people to take the path of least resistance, right? And a big part of it, a big part of business success I mentioned before, is your business will never outgrow your leadership. And in order to become, a good leader, you need to build character, and you build character by stepping out of your comfort zone. You got to become comfortable being uncomfortable. I know today is all about, talking about numbers and process, but process and systems includes habits and routines. And as the leader of your business, you'd know this, Curtis. You've got to be an example. You've got to walk your talk. Um, I always share the story about how, to give people an idea of what we're talking about here with this leadership and how your business will never grow your leadership. We both know people you could give $10 million to today and it'll be gone in 2 years. Okay. And why? Why is that? Well, they don't have the character, they don't have the financial acumen to hold on to the money. So you need to develop that character and the skill set to be the type of leader that other people are going to want to follow into battle. And part of that
Absolutely.
is just deciding, hey, I want to get my head around the numbers because a lot of the builders as well. Someone listening might go, but I wasn't good at numbers at school. I was that guy that was terrible, when it came to doing maths or whatever. So, but it does not. This is not overly complex. I mean, it sounds like I'm contradicting myself because it is, but it isn't. Like,
Yeah.
there's no one. You don't have to be high IQ or extraordinary to figure this out. Especially, it's a bit like not needing to understand the mechanics of a vehicle to drive the thing, right? It's about finding the right people that can help you. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, like, I believe in surrounding yourself with good people who are strong in the areas that you're weak. Like, I know my strengths and weaknesses, and I know that I'm a big picture, creative, big idea person. I'm not great at managing the details. So I have a staff of people that work for me that are good at managing the financials, managing the project schedules. Like, you have to first have some self-realization on what you're good at, right? And then hire for your weaknesses, or sub
Absolutely. Employ your
or
weaknesses. Yeah.
subcontract, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So whether if you're a small builder and you say, "Hey, Curtis, I can't afford to hire a full-time accounting staff. I can't afford to hire a full-time, kind of back office pre-construction staff." Okay, well, there's options out there for a lot of that for you to go out and get subcontractor, part-time, remote. There's ways to fill the gaps without taking that onto your payroll and your overhead burden.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's plenty of options, and it comes back to to understanding your numbers, and there is a correlation between the volume of work, your turnover, and margin. So it's just getting it again. It's just understanding what that looks like, and then yeah.
So, other than just not really having a grasp on the financials, what's the biggest financial mistake that you see builders making?
It's definitely front end, like with pricing. Just not knowing, what margin they should be pricing the job at, basically.
What's margin?
And yeah, so I sort of slowed down there. I'm like, we can get in the weeds here so quickly, but
I, I put
trying to
fifteen
keep it as
percent. I,
simple.
I put 15% markup on it. That's good enough, right?
Yeah, no, well, that's a recipe for disaster, 15% markup. Yeah, because there's a difference between markup and margin. Um, and to cut to the chase, your margin needs to be minimum 20%. Um, if we work together, it's 25% margin, hence the 25, 10, 15 rule. Ideally, it should be closer to 30%, especially if you're doing remodeling and that sort of work. But 25% minimum, which is a 33% markup. So if your costs to do the job, so materials, labor, including your time, if you're doing any supervision or project management, if let's say for ease of numbers, the costs are $100,000, you would mark up 33%. So you put $33,000 on, the quote to the client's $133,000. That's $33,000 as a percentage of the total is 24.9% or 25%. That's the margin. That's the gross margin. Okay, so net profit is, if you look at a profit and loss, there's income minus expenses. Is there anything left? If we're looking at a business that sells bananas, and we look at the P&L, we'd go straight to the net profit. You're either making a net profit or you're not. So the gross profit is just the profit on the job, and then you've got to take that money and pay your overheads, which is your rent, vehicles, annual insurances, marketing, admin wages, that sort of thing. And then if there's anything left, there's net. So so what was your original question? What the
What's
margin should be? Yeah.
Yeah, well, my question was, what's the biggest financial mistake that you see builders making outside of not understanding the big finances in general?
Yeah, so the margin's too low. And then you mentioned 15% markup. Surely that's enough. Interestingly enough, where I am now, like I'm in New South Wales, which is a state in Australia. Where I don't know if you're familiar with Sydney. I live in Sydney, in Manly, beautiful suburb on the beach. Gonna go for a swim after this. Like it's early in the morning here, Wednesday. I know it's Tuesday where you are. But the state of New South Wales, in order to build, so you got your building license, and then you get insurance, right? We have home warranty insurance over here. I'm sure you have your insurance, yeah, and different states and territories have different rules around that. What the government did here, which is great, and this allows me to even talk about this, because back in the day, I started coaching in 2004. I had lawyers contacted me saying you can't talk about margins because that's like price fixing, which is illegal, right? It's illegal in this country. So there's a thing here called the Home Building Compensation Fund guidelines, where the government and the insurance companies spent a shit fuck ton of money, excuse my French, doing research on the builders that went out. They went through the rubble of all the builders that went under, and you can only imagine why. Like insurance companies don't want to pay out, right? Try to get money out of insurance company, right? So they're looking at why did these guys go under, so that they could then use that whatever they found as like metrics or criteria for assessing the risk on these builders, right? To decide whether they insure them or not. No surprise. Number one, margin. The margins are too low. There was a whole lot of criteria. Cash flow is a big one. I think more guys will go insolvent or bankrupt because of cash flow issues and cash gap than margin. But margin was the top of the list. I've actually got the numbers. And then they broke it up into different categories. So a high risk builder has a margin of 12% or less. All right, that's high risk. It's almost not a matter of if, it's when you're going to crash and
Mm.
burn. All right, so they wouldn't even insure you. Then there's 12 to 19% margin, moderate risk. And then from a 20% margin, which is a 25 markup, by the way, that's when you just enter the safe zone for the client. And this is where builders have a duty of care to their clients to be financially sound. Because what happens is if you go under as a builder and you're doing like a renovation, a major reno in someone's house, and they renting somewhere while you're doing that build, and you crash and burn, and it's in a market where it's busy, no other builder wants to touch the job, the insurance pays out 20%. That client is, and it's in this report. Like I can send you a copy if you like. It talks about the pain to the client is severe. Now, if a builder goes under, that's horrible. It's embarrassing. It's emotionally, disturbing. But there's no builder in the Western world that wouldn't get a job like that tomorrow. All right. Like there's plenty of work on. You can get a job, like I know in this country, for 300 grand a year working for a tier one builder. It's blood money, but we've got a housing crisis here. There's always plenty of work, and there's less young people want to go into trades and become carpenters and builders anyway. So there's high demand. Your family's never going to starve. All right. But a lot of these clients are left holding the stick, and it's tragic. It's horrible. So really, as a builder, you need to understand the numbers. You need to make sure you got a good margin in there, which is it's counterintuitive, right? Like it's being financially sound so that you protect your clients. But in back to New South Wales over here, you don't even get your building license. Yeah, so just knowing the numbers is liberating from the point of view. And I was speaking to a couple of guys just the other day. I was talking to, like, they've got clarity on their numbers now, on these margins. They understand it needs to be minimum 20%. And this guy, young guy, early 30s, he said, it is so liberating that I can now look clients in the eye. And when they try to squeeze me on price, because this, so people think, oh, this builder's trying to rip me off. He can look them in the eye and he knows that that margin is, very fair, and he doesn't second guess himself, because a lot of builders, they have 15% markup and the client's ignorant. They're like, oh, this is too much. What are you talking about? Meanwhile, we've had, price shock off the back of the pandemic. And then next thing the builder goes, oh, I'll just take 5% off or whatever it is. Next thing they're going backwards, they're underwater. And it's just because it's born out of ignorance. So understanding
Yeah.
the numbers gives you that confidence and frees you up to say to someone, look, it needs to be here. And then it becomes them, not you. So then, something's wrong with your marketing. That's not a quality client. They're price shopping. They don't have the money. They've got beer money, champagne taste.
Yeah. Uh, Obviously, there's a lot of different ways to kind of arrive at. I like your rule there, but there's a lot of ways to kind of determine what that margin needs to be, and there's a lot of different ways to approach it. So sometimes it depends on if are your employees, like your project management staff, your carpenters, are they in your overhead, or are they in cost of goods sold, or in like what categories are different things falling under? But really, I think you kind of need to start with your overhead expense and say, hey, just to keep the doors open, it costs me this much, right? Between office rent, utilities, fuel, payroll, everything else, right? And that number is going to drive ultimately what your margin needs to be. So, if your overhead is 20% instead of the 15%, sorry, instead of the 10% that you mentioned, well, guess what? Now your margins needs to be 30 or 35 or maybe 40, right? Every business is a little bit different, but it's understanding what those costs, what your costs are, just to keep the doors open, setting that as your overhead, and then that's where you determine that margin, right? So, I like I like your rule of thumb a lot, but it's very much a case by case basis, and kind of where you have a couple of your costs classified.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because you're right. There are different ways you can do it, I've sort of changed my approach with how we get to that 25 margin. But it's important that you've what you just brought up now, because if anyone was thinking that that 25 margin is a good margin and they've got their supervision and overheads, their supervision, project management, and carpentry in overheads, they screwed. So this is, I should have really, put that into the caveat that that 25, 10, 15, and I go into more detail in my book, which is a good resource for anyone that's thinking, yeah, I want to do a deeper dive on this because we've only got so much time on this pod. But again, I was started in 2004. What I consider best practice is to have all your site-related labor. So carpentry, general labor, your apprentices, supervision, and project management. Now, most guys, when I meet them, they don't cost in supervision or project management because they're doing it themselves. So straight away, there's a problem there. So that whatever margin they've got's inflated and it's not a true margin. Okay, again, I've never had someone come to me with accurate numbers. And your numbers are scoreboard for you in the game of business, right? So we move those up day one. Any site-related labor, including project management and supervision, this is really important, goes up into cost of sales. Now, in order for you to going back to the three areas, your cost codes, and then that translating or getting uploaded into your job scheduling tool, and you issuing purchase orders so you can track the numbers real time, cost versus actuals during a job, and then that feeding into your chart of accounts, which is your bookkeeping. You need to have timesheets, and you need to cost in the hourly rates for project management, for supervision, and then for your carpentry and for the labor and everything else. And that sounds like a long, painful, drawn out, complicated way to do it. It is the most accurate. I'll challenge anyone listening, any other coaches listening, I challenge you to find a more accurate way to cost in your cost of sales, bricks, timber, steel, materials, and labor than that. And labor is the number one area for overruns, right? Where guys screw up on the numbers. And I'll just add to it, there's never been an accurate quote done ever on this planet. Okay. So we're not trying to get 100% accurate, trying to get as accurate as humanly possible. And it has to be that way. Now, if we can get that right, so that component with the labor, getting that right and setting it up, and employ your weaknesses, Curtis, like you said, we've got guys that we point to that can do this. They understand it and know how to set it up and do it. You don't need to understand the mechanics of the vehicle to drive it. Okay, just understand what's happening here. It's getting accurate cost of sales. And once you do that, here's the thing that I discovered about 7 to 10 years into my coaching practice. When I started out, we were trying to cost in cost of sales and then an allocation for overhead. But you can't do that accurately unless your turnover is going to stay exactly the same and you do the same number of jobs every year. Then you can go 10 jobs, 1 million bucks each. The overheads, this 500K, we divide that up and it's 50 grand each gets allocated. What I realized is that once you turn in over more than $2 million a year, your overheads as a percentage of turnover and it will never exceed 12%. Well, I had not seen it. And I've worked with over 1,000 builders myself personally, right? So I was like, wow. So if we achieve a 20% gross margin, if we just cost in the cost of sales, bricks, timber, steel, labor, including supervision and project management, very, very importantly, because most guys don't, at least 40% don't do that. All right, which is why, by the way, they grow. You hear guys, older guys, it's risky to grow because they grow, they bring on supervisors or project managers, they weren't costing themselves in. All of a sudden, they're making the same or less money and they shrink back down. They go, don't grow, it's risky. But once you cost that in correctly and you can achieve even a 20% margin, you're covering the 12 and there's 8% net. You go to 25, and again, so 10% of turnover as overheads to turnover is a sweet spot, then you're left with 15. So hence the 25, 10, 15. But that 25 is after your site-related labor, including supervision project management. Hopefully that makes sense and I haven't overcomplicated my explanation, but that is the cleanest, simplest way to cost jobs accurately, hold that margin, and it all becomes about the 25. Once you've got those numbers down, but getting it up from overheads into cost of sales is the challenge for most guys. But again, you don't have to do it yourself. It's about the right processes and people. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It is definitely best practice to get your labor into cost of goods sold and out of overhead. And I would say that out of the people that I work with, that I coach in our peer group that I work in, and other things, most people do not have that set up that way. And that's one thing that we encourage people to do, to get their project managers above the line, get them into the cost of goods sold, so that you can also mark that up when you're doing your bids, right? So I think it's super important. I wanted to kind of switch gears a little bit. One thing that oftentimes people who don't have kind of their numbers right do is they just chase more work. They're like, oh, well, if I can just go to 6 million instead of 4 million, everything's going to be okay, right? So let's just take on more jobs, more jobs, more jobs. But they're taking on more jobs at the same low margins, at the same kind of bad math, and all they do is just self-perpetuate the problem, right?
Yeah, and then this is where you'll see marketing companies will often throw that as down as a solution. You just need more work. You need more, get your revenue up. You need more leads, take on more work. But if you're not costing in your supervision, your project management, your volume increases, you need a bigger crew. Your cost of sales um, grow rapidly as the volume of work increases. The overhead's not as much, right? But if you're not costing those cost of sales in, especially the labor, then yeah, you're just going to make and then as you get bigger and more work, there's more inefficiency. So there's more slippage and there's more issues. So this is where you get that whole mindset around it's risky to grow. So the solution is chase the margin, then the revenue. Even if it takes you 12, 18 months to really understand where's the margin, and this relates back to sales and marketing. It's about becoming a specialist, being a cardiologist, not a GP. You really need to specialize in something, and that'll also make the numbers easier. It'll be easier for you to get your head around and understand what the allocation, like how many hours a week for supervision or project management on this type of job, once you've done many of them, in your location, because it is, job type or niche specific and location specific as well. I just want to mention though, like the thing that I see a lot with just going back to the sticking point, which is really having those timesheets and getting the labor up into cost of sales. Most bookkeepers won't want to do it. So there's a lot of business that we live in a world of mediocrity, all right? Most people are average at best, 80%. Like, and the lack of common sense around this still, I'm totally perplexed at I was talking to a guy yesterday about these PhD level intelligent people, very clever people that still look at the 80%. They look at what most people do. Most people are not successful. Like if you want to be a peak performer, just think of sport. Like if you're playing sport on the weekend, look at the guys that play in the major leagues and the pro, pick your sport, right? Look what they do. Look at their mindset, diet, routine, habits, everything. It's very, very different to someone that just does it on the weekend. So if you're just plodding along and you go to an association meeting and everyone's got the same problems and they're all crying in their soup, it's you're looking at mediocrity, right? Look at the top 3%. Look at the guys that do have the best coaches, do have best practice processes in place. They're doing things very differently. So it's no different with the bookkeepers and accountants. You go to them and go, hey, I want to do it this way. They've got 100 clients But they're not going to go out of their way now to create this whole new system just for you, the builder, because you want to implement best practice process. They'll say to you, oh, no, we'll just do it this way. They'll even, maybe it's out of ignorance or they just, it's what suits their business and their efficiency. So you got to be mindful of that as well. And again, it comes back to seeking out the best advice.
Absolutely. So to kind of move on to my next kind of segment on my notes here. In my intro, I mentioned systems and processes, and that seems simple, right? There has to be a process to make the machine go forward. It's the engine and the gears that drive the business forward. If the revenue is the fuel, the systems and processes are kind of the machine that produces the work, right? So why do so many contractors kind of wander through the wilderness, for lack of a better term, kind of bouncing from fire to fire? So in fact, I like to use the analogy of they're a firefighter. They're putting out fires instead of the fire marshal, somebody who helps kind of prevent fires and watches out for fires, right? So why are so many builders firefighters instead of fire marshals?
Yeah, they would always talk about, being more reactive than proactive. Yeah, so they're putting out fires, most of them that they created themselves, and it's a lack of process. Okay, just there's a lack of process. So someone might be wondering, like, well, what's process? So, just think of a sole trader who's running his business out the back of his F-150 or whatever he's got, the vehicle that he can't afford. No processes, so he's everything. He's the bottleneck. He does everything. He does the quoting, the job delivery, the supervision, the running around, picking up things, materials, whatever. There's no process there. Maybe he's got a website or a Facebook page at best, and then whatever, QuickBooks or whatever system someone like that has will be because it's mandatory, as a compliance thing. So they have to have some sort of bookkeeping to do their tax. Versus someone who's got a fully functioning operations manual that's running like a well-oiled machine. And there's a process from first inquiry all the way through to after handover and maintenance. And it's not just this is a pretty good system or checklist. It's best practice. The absolute best system on this planet right now for that builder in that location based on the type of work they do and where they want to go. Whether they want to keep it boutique, optimize for profit, seven-figure club, channel it into a property portfolio or some small developments that is also niched and specialized, like whether it's fixer-uppers or subdivisions or whatever it is. But once you specialize and you become that, yes, it's all the same thing, but the same thing means you can build consistency, process, and you can optimize for efficiency, profit, cash flow, workflow. So, yeah, there's two ends of the spectrum. How does someone go from just being a no process guy and then just lots of, trying to do everything yourself and in your head? Yeah, it's just going to be exhausting. It's the proverbial hamster wheel. It's a recipe for burnout. And there's no need for it in this day and age. We've got great, I mean, imagine showing someone cloud-based solutions, going in a time machine, showing someone in the 80s, 1985, check this out. It'll blow their mind. So, um, yeah, it's a lack of process to answer your question, is why they're more reactive than proactive. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. There's so many great tools out there. I mean, I don't know why in this day and age anybody would not have a project management software. And in fact, a lot of these project management softwares are more than just project management softwares. They're really business management softwares. You mentioned Builder Trend. There's also, here in the U.S., JobTread, Rezio, CoConstruct. There's a whole slew of fantastic software out there, and they really do way more than just manage the schedule and what faucets got picked out. Right? That gives you a snapshot of where your business is at, because they integrate with your accounting software as well. So. In this day and age, to not have some kind of project management software, I think is crazy. It's just a super basic tool that everybody should have. So anyway, that was my spiel on project management software. So I feel like one of the most important processes for contractors to really implement, let's say you're you don't have anything and you're like, hey, what's the first thing? And I'm see if you agree with me here. I have a feeling that you do. I really
Yeah,
feel like having a solid pre-construction process is the key to success. What do you think?
100% agree. Like we were talking about it off air. 80% of inefficiencies, lost profit, cash flow issues, whatever problems, whether it's a client issue, a toxic client, um, you know, it can be traced upstream to the pre-construction phase. The job wasn't priced correctly, the margin's too low. That's why you're not making money. You're working with the wrong client. They're not a good fit for what you do. That's a sales and marketing problem. If you like, oh, but I had to work with them because I didn't have any other, options. Well, yeah, marketing problem. You need more quality leads. So there's an issue there. Yeah, not programming the job in a job scheduling tool, trying to run the job out of your head, and it gets away from you. You need to have a job scheduling tool and program the job pre-construction. Um, the client didn't understand the whole change order process. Well, you didn't do a client commencement agreement and explain the rules of the game pre-construction. Your subcontractor's a nightmare, and doesn't turn up. You weren't doing call forwards, or you didn't position them. You didn't have trade agreements. It goes on and on. So most of it can be traced up to the pre-construction phase. But a lot of guys, yeah, sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, and all that takes a lot of time, right? Like there's a lot of hours that get spent to really nail that down during pre-construction. And
Mm.
if you don't get paid for your time to do that, you're losing out not only on the dollars, but you're giving away your time, you're giving away your expertise, right? So the key to pre-construction is actually getting paid for it.
Yes. Well, that's sort of there are not many silver bullets, like because really this is, yeah, anyone who's at a point where they're like, okay, um, I want to I want to get my head around and get good at this business thing, which is what this is, by the way. If you're a builder, like you're right, a lot of guys that I think you spoke about this before we went live, but how a lot of builders were carpenters, that then get their building license and then they start building, they start a business so and a lot of builders that I come across, they love building. They like being outside building, and they craftsmen. They really enjoy what they do and they're good at it, and they love that feedback they get from clients. And some guys build forever homes and they win awards and whatever, and they're sort of put off by becoming a businessman. But the reality is, and the truth will set you free. If you want a successful business, you want to optimize for profit, cash flow, workflow, and you want more lifestyle choice and build generational wealth, you need to lean into that. You need to understand this is another whole apprenticeship. You need to become a business owner who understands business development and just get over it. Just go, okay, I want to do this. I'm going. But some guys love it. Like you're an entrepreneur, Curtis. So you're an ideas guy, big picture. You obviously love business development. You get excited about it, as do I. Not everyone does, but the reality is there's no escaping that. Making a decision, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that to the best of my ability. Okay. That's a leadership decision. Um, and then so it's a lifelong journey. But so no silver bullets, but if I was gonna pick one thing, it would be charging for quotes. All right. I mean, it's not, again, like you say, it's not so much the money, it's more around making sure that you get the numbers right, which we've spoken about ad nauseum. Like you know, most guys don't get the numbers right at the quoting phase, and this lends itself to no profit and chaos, financial chaos, because they don't have the time to slow it down. A lot of guys are burning the midnight oil, doing a quote at the last minute, making mistakes. They haven't got time to shop it out to all the suppliers, all the subcontractors. They don't really understand the numbers anyway. Then the client squeezes them on price, they drop it again. So it just goes on and on. So it's about having the right processes, and the right people. But if you're going to do it properly, like you need time. So and that requires, if you're going to do the quote, ideally someone pays you for it, and what they're paying for is not the time that you spend doing the quote, which is what most guys think. And that's true. Yes. Why would you do it for free? There's the only industry in the world where someone post World War II decided, let's do free quotes. And now we're still doing it 2026, right? So, there's no, go to a lawyer, accountant, anyone, dentist, well, they're going to do free work. Are you out of your mind, right? And this is huge. Like what goes into the price, even a renovation, never mind a new home, right? So, um, yes, you should be paid, but what they're paying for is accuracy. Never been an accurate quote done ever. So you need to develop a process and a system that demonstrates that when you price something, it's accurate. I don't know how much price shock you guys are experiencing in your area right now, but yeah, it's always been a problem, price shock. People get the quote and they're like, oh, yeah, they're shocked, and I have builders shocked and estimators shocked, you know what I mean? And they start second guessing themselves again. But really, you need to be charging, slowing it down, getting the number right. But some guys out there, even listening now, their process for dealing with an inquiry as it comes in, they go out and see them. That's like 1985, 1990s. Really, you need a better process for how you add value. This is not just about you saving time and money and getting the best clients. It's about adding value to your clients, first principles of wealth creation. And then, educating the client with an education-based sales and marketing process where people need to be educated on the importance of getting the numbers right and then demonstrating that you have a process for doing that. And the way you educate them is not to sit one-on-one and explain it to them. It's to send them a document, send them a video, and they absorb it. And if they don't understand it or agree or get it, you move on. That's a qualification. That's the number one rule of sales is qualify, qualify, qualify. I don't want to go into the weeds here now, but if anyone's wants our full sales process, it's in my book. But yeah, charging for quotes is what we call a game changer. So as it's a day one conversation as well with the finances. It's the first process, um, because it means you get the margins right, and then you're really adding a lot of value to the client as well.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, attorneys, accountants, they're not doing free work, but many
They'd laugh at you,
contractors,
right?
yeah, many contractors like we proudly advertise. We give you a free quote.
Mm,
We put it on our
mm.
website. Free quote, right? Well,
Yeah, stupid.
what's that worth? I mean, um, I, I think historically, people who don't have a defined pre-construction process, they're just pulling numbers out of their head. Like, oh, that electrical work cost me $10,000 on the last project, so I'm going to throw that in this budget, and that tile probably costs $2 a square foot, so I'll pop that into the budget, right? And so it's guessing. It might be educated guessing, but at the end of the day, it's still guessing. So when
Mm.
you charge for your time to do that, um, whether you're doing it yourself and you're being compensated for your time, it allows you to slow down and be more methodical. Take the time, send it out to vendors, meet trade partners on site, get real pricing, and not feel like you have to rush through it because you're doing this for free. And as you mentioned, you're burning the midnight oil. You're at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're trying to put together a free quote, right? The other thing that it could allow you to do if you're charging enough money for this is you could bring on that extra employee now, right? So if you have revenue coming in from pre-construction, you can hire somebody to be that estimator, pre-construction manager, whatever that is, and now that person is taking that workload off of your plate, right?
Yeah, that's huge. That is the real game changer right there. Is which I wanted to get to, which was you charge for quotes and then you outsource that quoting to an estimator because I'm sure most builders listening love doing the quoting, right? It's one of their favorite things to do. Not, but I had one guy where I said that to him, obviously being sarcastic, and he said, "Yeah, no, I do. He loves it." And he wasn't joking, and he's now an estimator. He's got an estimating business, but that's one in 20 odd years. But yeah, that's the game show. Think about it. Think about not having to do, and I'm not saying you just and most guys will be. I'm not going to just get an estimator to do it because a lot of them get the numbers wrong, and they do. And it comes back to the 80% mediocrity. You've got to seek out the best ones. And there's only a few, like I can count on one hand that I point to in each of the countries that we work in, right? Because they have a good track record for getting the numbers right. So you've got to just, yeah, there's the caveat there. You got to seek them out. But yeah, imagine, just look back at the last 12 months, anyone listening, how many hours you spend quoting, putting these bids together. Imagine not having to do 80% of that. And if you seek out the right estimator, and yeah, you can have them in-house as well. Um, they're going to be better at you than doing that because that's all they do. That's all they do all day, every day is the numbers. And if they're working for other builders, because you can also have an estimator who's a contractor. So they're working
Sure.
for 150, 200 other builders in your niche and they add value. Like we have estimators where the estimator goes, hey, your hourly rates are $20 an hour lower than the other guys in your location, right? So they're pointing things out to you that you can't see, adding value while freeing up time, whilst also ensuring your client gets an accurate number. Now you become the builder with a track record over time and clients who go, hey, he told me it's going to cost $1 million. And you know what? It cost $1 million, bar some variations that I made. That is building credibility and trust, and brand value and all that. So this is such an important area. The financials, when it comes to putting systems in place, there is a process or sequence for systems implementation, which is why, business looks so simple from the outside, right? Oh, you need marketing, sales, whatever. Putting these processes in place, they do need to happen sequentially, which is not unlike building a house, right? Um, there's certain things need to happen in a specific order. But we follow an 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. You're obviously familiar with it. Someone might be wondering, like, if you're on that hamster wheel and it's chaos and you're doing 80, 90 hours a week and it's unsustainable, how do you break the cycle? Where do you start? You mentioned that before, and there's 20% of the things you do that give you 80% of your results. Results being profit, cash flow, workflow. And then a lot of people don't realize there's the 20% of that 20%. So there's an extrapolation of that Pareto principle where it gives you a 4-64 scenario where 4% of the things you do give you 64% of your results. And charging for quotes and then outsourcing it is one of those. There'll be your business before you did that, and then your business afterwards. So if you just do that one thing, that's going to free up time and money, and then you move on to the next thing. That's how you get a leg up and become more proactive than reactive.
Yeah, I mean it's really a mindset shift, right? You have to have that shift in mindset from I have to do it all myself, and this is the only way to do it, to being open to coaching, open to new ideas, and open to implementing new processes that are going to free you up and allow you to do the things that you are good at, right? Like there. I like the concept of doing kind of the delegate and elevate chart. It's like make a chart and put the things on there. These are the things that I'm good at, that I love to do, that only I can do. These are the things that I'm good at, but I hate doing them, but they have to be done, right? These are the things that I'm not good at and I shouldn't be doing, right? And like make a chart,
Mm.
and some of those things you just need to like just stop doing altogether, and some of those things you need to delegate to somebody else, and some of those things you really need to focus on.
Couldn't agree more. And 100%. One of the things we do to keep it simple is look at the tasks that fuel you. There's things you do that really fuel you. And after you've done them, you feel more energized than before you started. And there's others that just drain your energy. So yeah, the ones that drain you, you definitely want to get rid of those as quickly as possible. And this also is relevant to like a lot of builders, their wives get involved in the business, right? And then I've had, our most successful clients, and this is another whole conversation, woman in construction, bringing a woman in, a woman has a different read on the play. Like, if you think about your wife, a lot of guys, if they want to, joint venture with someone to go into business with someone, they'll get their wife to come with them, go out for dinner. Because women have that sixth sense. They have the ability to get things done, and then often, and I'm generalizing here, deal with a lot of moving parts. So, um, but the mistake some guys make is that they get their wife to do maybe the bookkeeping, but then she freaking hates it. I've had that happen, and then she's crying. Whereas, what she wants to do is maybe the marketing and the Instagram and the photos and the videos and that sort of thing. So you want to find that for yourself as the owner of the business, and what are the things that fuel you, employ your weaknesses, like I said, outsource it. But if you can get your wife involved or your partner, or even just an office admin woman, they can really help. From my experience, that can really help accelerate the business development side of the business, of putting processes and SOPs and checklists and systems in place quickly and well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been chatting for a while, and I want to kind of move towards wrapping this up. And honestly, I could sit here and talk to you like all day about this because this is like my favorite thing to talk about. But to kind of move towards wrapping this up, if a builder comes to you and says, Kurt, I know you're right. I've got to get some processes in place. I don't have anything right now. I'm overwhelmed. Where do I start? What do you do? What's your approach?
Sales process. Day one, we've got to put a sales process in place. You need some basic marketing, direct response marketing. Yeah, decide what is your specialty. If it's renovations, remodeling, that's fine. And then most guys go to start with renovations or remodeling and then move up towards custom homes, architectural builds, more complex builds. So basic, cornerstone of your marketing just quickly is, social media, Facebook, Instagram, yeah, maybe house, website. That's it. And then having a sales process that you take people through, charging for quotes, and then a job scheduling tool, as you mentioned, that also very importantly serves as a client communication tool. These job scheduling tools have client portals. Most builders don't realize that having a proactive process or structure for how you communicate with your clients is marketing. It is off the chart. I could do a whole pod just on that. And then that would be it. That would be it. So sales and marketing, fundamentals, at pricing, your financial controls set up properly, everything we spoke about before, job scheduling with client communication, getting that done. Even if that takes you 12 months to get those things in place, you'll have a fantastic platform to then build on.
Yeah, the client communication piece of that is very often overlooked. My team recently actually just kind of dissected our entire customer journey, which is what we call it the crafted customer journey, from the very first phone call, website interaction, whatever that is, all the way through every step from very first contact all the way to when construction starts, and then throughout construction. Look at every interaction and say, how do we bring value to the client at this moment? How do we communicate better with the client at this moment? How do we convey the next steps? So kind of dissecting your customer journey into very small pieces and analyzing it and saying, how can we make it better? That's something that my team has been going through recently. And for more experienced builders who are looking to fine tune some of their processes, I think that's a fantastic thing to do as well.
Couldn't agree more. It is that is game changer if you do that well. And one of the biggest success stories I've ever seen is a company that did renovations, remodeling, and they had female project managers that would turn up once a week, and they're almost like a valet service where they had all the selections done, they had the schedule for the job, the budget, and that would be the intermediary between the client and the guys on site. So they just supervise on his crew, and they would just head down on stuff, getting stuff done. And then she would come in, and then she was like just driving it, and it freed the guys up on site to do what they do, and the client was happy. And I've never seen anything like it, Curtis. The overflow of referrals, we had to farm them out to five other builders. Just the overflow of referrals. They had someone sign a contract without meeting them. So just send me the contract. So that is the power of proactive communication. And women do have more finesse in how they communicate. Guys, we very like, it's the hunter-gatherer thing. We just want to go after it and get it done. Quick story on the power, just to really emphasize how important it is to communicate well. You guys have Passive House over there with high performance homes.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a great niche, by the way, obviously with everything going, the green economy and everything else. But this builder, when I met with someone that wanted to build a passive house, and you have to be Passive House accredited out of Germany or whatever it is, and he was, but they just built, they wanted to build one. A friend of theirs had just finished building a passive house. So they said to their friends, naturally, how did it go? What was the builder like? And their friend said it was on time, on budget, defects free. All right, amazing. I mean, really good result for the builder. So they naturally said to their friend, "Would you refer us? Send us his deal." And they were like, "No." And they were like, "Why not?" And they said the communication was shocking. And I was like, "Wow, this is a recent example, right? Just in the last year." I was like, "Wow." So on time, on budget, defects free, but because of the radio silence. Now, in the builder's defense, most builders are like, "I just want to get this job done," and if you can get it done to a high standard, on time, within budget, you've won. Like, surely that's the ultimate outcome. Happy client. No. And you know what it is? Because this is the best analogy. Imagine you don't know where your kids are. Maybe they hurt or something worse. Now, you eventually find out they're not. They were fine all along. That just because you find out later that they were fine doesn't take away the emotional turmoil that you experienced not knowing where they were. All right. That's what it's like for clients when builders don't communicate. And it's just that radio silence, right? And again, most builders don't realize this. Like, why would that be an issue? I'm
Yeah,
getting the job done.
especially when it's millions of dollars potentially, right? I mean, this is not you're paying $20 for lunch. This is this is millions of dollars, right? So people care about where their money's going, and they want to have some confidence that it's being handled properly.
Yeah, and they put the TV on. They've seen one horror story after the next, right? They jump online and says, "Yeah, this happened," and there's a lot of bad news out there with builders. So um, I think we've gone over time, Curtis.
Yeah,
Again, I could keep talking all
yeah.
day on this
I
sort of
just
thing.
I thank you for being here. I want to leave people on a positive note and say, and you kind of said this at the beginning. If you're struggling right now, it's okay. Everybody struggles from time to time. There is help out there. Reach out to Kurt. If you guys don't click, there's a lot of great builder coaches out there. Kurt has a wonderful coaching business. Kurt, tell us real quick about your coaching business, how people can contact you, and give us another plug for your book as well.
Absolutely. Builderscoach.com. Just you can contact us direct through the website, quick and easy. I love doing what I do. All right. So if you're interested in having a crack at the seven figure club, and if that's daunting, don't worry about it. We work with builders that just want to keep it boutique and small and just have more control and be more proactive than reactive. But it is a very fit for purpose coaching program or process. So it's very individualized. But the best way to get a feel for myself and the content is, well, the content is the book. Yeah, and I put my life and soul into this. A lot of my mentors in the US, if I didn't have kids here, I'd be living there. Zig Ziglar famously said, helping our people get what they want, you can get anything that you want. So I'm a big believer in give it all away. 90% of the people I help I never meet. So grab a copy of that. We also have a podcast called The Builders Coach Show where you can get a feel for my personality if you haven't already. And my wife, Jess, is sort of my co-host on there. So that'll give people plenty of content and a feel for if I'm the right fit. Like I said, there's a lot of great coaches out there. But by all means, if you wanna have a crack, get in touch. What we do is book in a Zoom call and find out a bit more about you and the business and if and how we can help.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a real joy. Like I said, I could talk about this stuff with you for a long time. So maybe we can pick another kind of topic within this and visit it again sometime in the future.
Absolutely, I'd love to. Thanks for having me, Curtis. Appreciate it.
All right, and thank all of you for joining us on this episode of the Your Project Shepherd podcast. I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. If you found value in this episode of Your Project Shepherd podcast, please consider leaving us a review and sharing it with your friends. That helps us expand our reach and bring this content to more people. Thanks for being here.